This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hello everybody, it's No Filter Friday on Public House Media. Do you feel like this camera's too high? Because I kind of do. Like, I'm getting all of this. Like, well, maybe I like it. Maybe I'm into this, like, morning glow. There it is, that's fine. Okay, we're gonna keep rocking like this, actually, I think. Or, hang on, let's try one thing. One teeny tiny little thing that could be better. I don't know, we'll see if that's the case or not. That more, you know what, I think that's nicer. Maybe, possibly. And again, my hair looks very nice. Somehow. I woke up like this. Hello, person coming in. Can you leave me a comment to see who you are? Because I'm not sure from a little teeny tiny picture. And that makes me sad because it's the only, because now that I have to wake up to do the show, it's a little bit harder to see what's going on, and I still do it live because of you. Granted, I didn't necessarily have to wake up to do the show this morning because I had to wake up for reflexology, which was earlier, and acupressure to try to get this going back to where it was. But anyway, any hoozles, I was reading about the situation that happened in Denmark, and normally this show is like pretty grimy, but this is actually kind of tame for once. I'll be grateful for that it's something. It's like, oh, nobody died or had their life ruined or anything, so that's good. That's a decent story. Because some of the others Me Too stories I'm following right now, kind of in the peripheral to watch things play out before we have a show on it, are absolutely horrific, and this one isn't so bad. So, as it happens, no phone, don't go jumping away. Okay, we're good. My internet is being a pain. Anyway, the leader of the Liberal Socialist Party in Denmark just had to resign because he put his hand on one of his female staffers' thighs 10 years ago, before he got elected. And then I guess the Me Too movement in Denmark wasn't exactly something that they really latched on to immediately, because they're like, oh, this is Denmark, where there's some like controversy, whether it's like Benelux or Nordic, whatever. We're such a highly equitable place, we treat everybody the same, we don't do stuff like this, blah, 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 blah. And I can't necessarily speak for Benelux that much, but I can definitely speak for Nordic countries because I went there to cover their rape crisis, and they just don't report the crimes that happen, so their statistics are super skewed, and even when they do, and even somebody does get a conviction, their jails there are an absolute joke. So all of this, Scandinavia doesn't even have jails, we don't even have criminals. It's not true, they do, just like everybody else. They just don't feel the need to prosecute it. Sound is good. Oh, thank you, David Bobke. You're such a wonderful man. What would I do without you? I hope it sounds good. I feel like this works, or I'm trying to make it work. Anyway, because sometimes I use the lav mic and I wonder if it's like too scratchy and I get too much friction in there. It kind of floats with my head, which I think can be nicer in some circumstances, unless there's wind going. Anyway, I'm always thinking about the sound on the show. I promise. It doesn't sound like that all the time, but I do work on it, I swear. So anyway, this Denmark was like, oh, that's Me Too stuff doesn't apply to us. We're so equal, blah, 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 blah. That's for like other people in other countries that, don't get down like Denmark. And then they kind of put out this announcement of like sexual harassment in the workplace and how they want to end that. And 1,600 women in a country that's like this big, like the size of like the white French tip on my fingernail, were like, we will contribute our stories to a letter to get this going. And then they're like, oh, maybe we do have an issue. And then the lady that got the leader of that political party to resign 10 years after the fact, said that she forgave him for the incident, and they were okay with that. It was the way that it was handled, the way that it was processed at the time that it happened, was the part that was like really, really disturbing, because she didn't have any support or backup, and nobody was like, oh, well, you know, he's running for office, or he's this person, like, you're just gonna have to deal with a hand on your leg if you work for him. Just deal with it. So things have changed, but I feel like that's kind of congruent to like the way that a lot of things have played out recently, whether it be with Me Too or without Me Too, because you have an incident that's like its own little monster, right? But how it's handled can make or break the situation. Because we've had all these whack apologies, and I've done several, episodes of the show that were just on whack apologies that people have given. I think my personal favorite was the one that the agent from William Morris, I think, wrote to the beloved Terrence. No. Why am I blanking on his name? He's such a wonderful... Oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this. He's so wonderful. Anyway, there's been whack apologies. That one was my particular favorite. And we did an entire episode on exactly how whack that apology was. David Bobke, can you help me out? Who am I thinking of? He's so wonderful. At Man Prom, the GQ party. I can't believe I'm blanking on this. I feel so terrible. Anyway, we've had loads of whack apologies and this like same song and dance over and over and over again. Like, I categorically deny these claims and this didn't happen. There's actually a whole process on this that has like an acronym. I think it's called DOVA. And it's how people are responding to accusations of sexual abuse, whether it be a crime or, you know, sexual harassment anywhere on the scale. And about how the D of DOVA is deflect. And be like, or no, it was deny. Deflect comes later. Is deny, like, this didn't happen, this person's crazy, this person wants attention, this person wants this, blah, 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 and flipping it on the other person. Deny, deflect is the first step of this whole gross process. And that happens a lot of like, oh, it wasn't that bad, oh, it wasn't that serious, yeah, you're so sensitive, all of that gaslighting situation, like, oh, that didn't happen. It's like, I was there. It definitely did. It definitely did. And that's why even when you get involved in any sort of criminal or even civil, like, kerfuffle, they're always ask you, okay, well, who was drinking? Who was on drugs? Who is this? Who is that? And they're always going to look for that. Always. Because they're always going to look for a way to discredit the situation or to discredit your memory of the situation or your perception of it. Always. They will always look for this. Whether it be you're making a police report, the police are going to want to know, prosecution's going to want to know, or even if it's just like a matter that you're handling between you, maybe like a mediator at a school or something, like a campus situation, they're always going to want to know these things. And it's specifically so they can be like, oh, well, I don't know, you don't know either because you weren't completely coherent at the time either. And that's when you have cases where somebody was stone cold sober, where things get really, really severe and they fight super hard because they're like, what do we do? Like, there's no way that we can discredit this person. Like, it's a hill that they're obviously willing to die on. But I said that to say this. Think about the lessons that we have learned from the Me Too movement, and think about in your life, you've got a scandal, and how you handle the scandal it's a 50-50 thing. They both count, because you can have an instance happen and you can handle it and find some way to try to make it right, or even if it's just repenting or whatever the case may be, okay, fine. Getting involved, squashing it as soon as possible. Or you can start weaving this web of Dovo where you're like, oh no, this person isn't right. They did this. Or, you know what, we were all drunk, we all made mistakes, things like that. Doesn't work. And the thing is, too, is like there's very few master gaslighters in the world. Most of them suck at it. They're just resting on the laurels of other people being polite and not putting their foot down and being like, nah, dude, I was there. My eyes were fully open. My ears were fully open. I'm a fully, an adult with full faculties here. Don't try to downplay this. Is a serious thing. Gaslighting is a very serious thing, but luckily there's very few people in this world who are actually super, super good at it. Most of the time people suck at it and they're just resting very, very thinly on the laurel that nobody's going to say anything back to them. Because that's kind of a faction of gaslighting, is that, how can I say this? That person's scrambling most of the time to try to make this happen. And to get the other person to feel like they're crazy or they're not, or they weren't really, it really wasn't that big of a deal, when it totally was. However, I will say, one solid concrete thing that has come from the #MeToo movement, at least across the United States, is that it is now illegal in many states to have NDAs in the workplace that cover sexual harassment. So you can't put that in an NDA anymore. And furthermore, nobody should have been able to in the first place, because sexual harassment is illegal to whatever degree it is illegal in that state. So how on earth can you contract outside of the law? That's crazy. That's a gag order. That's insane. It's a gag order that didn't even have an other end of it. Most of the time, it's one thing when you have a settlement, that you did a settlement out of court, to keep things on the low, for privacy, sealed records, blah, 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 blah. But the other person entered that as an agreement after the instance happened to them, not getting a job, signing an NDA, and being oh yeah, I won't sue you for sexual harassment. Who's going to sexual harass me? Who's going to harass me here? Who's going to try anything? And then the Harvey Weinsteins of the world are great, perfect. Now that you've signed that, you can't do anything back to me. Your hands are completely tied. And that's not true at all either. NDAs are hardly worth the paper that they're written on. There's always some way to finagle out of that, but you shouldn't be able to contract outside of law. That'd be like saying that okay, I hired a hitman to murder somebody and he didn't do it, so I'd like to sue him. Murder is illegal anyway. You're not allowed to do that, so you can't sue him for not doing that because you contracted outside the law. Not allowed. Not allowed at all. Anyway, that is enough #NoFilter Friday for this week. And you know what? It was not as heavy and horrible as normal. So that's a win in my book. That's exciting. When I get up and I'm like, who's been doing some Me Too shit around here? And it's hardly anybody. I'm with it. I'm all for it. A shorter show is a good show. When I have to sit around for an hour and unpack all these bags because it's a conversation that we have to have, happy to do it. Somebody's got to do it. But when we're it's time to do the show, not that much happened. Or what happened it was okay. It got handled. Restitution was paid. Perfect. How wonderful. So check out other shows on Public House Media. There's lots of them, like Choose to Rise and Morning Motivation and Disarming Disability. And we're on Amazon Music now, which is super exciting. So that's one more platform on top of Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher. Now it's Amazon Music. So you can check out all the shows on Amazon Music now. See you later, kids. Bye, 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 bye.